Thank you. Thank you, Meredith. And getting the best from these labs. So if this is your, well, regardless of whether it's your first time or you've been here before, sometimes we do a lot of talking. The last few sessions, we've done a lot of the talking, but generally we really want participation in these labs. It's not meant to be solely a platform for us to just talk at you, but to truly interact. So we want to hear your challenges, stories, your feedback, questions, and your participation is hugely important in these labs. Again, it's not just about us talking at you. Limit your distractions. Again, this is for you. So really think of this time as your time to learn, to troubleshoot, to reflect. So really kind of savor it. Use all the Zoom bells and whistles. You can use the raise your hand feature, and the lines are unmuted, by the way. So if you're in a noisy area or just don't necessarily want background noise to pick up, please mute yourself, but you can unmute yourself at any point in time. And chat in, speak up at any time as well. Try out your coaching skills. And again, we're glad to have you here. So, is there anybody here for the first time today? Or maybe you haven't been here for a while. We'd love to hear from you. Whether you're here for the first time, what brings you here, what you most want to learn, what you're most curious about.
I saw a thumbs up from Gloria Risa.
Awesome.
Gloria, feel free to hop off mute and say a little bit about what brought you here if you'd like.
I had seen information about the coalition building, and I was just interested, and just wasn't able to participate in the last two. So look forward to hearing today.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you here.
Yes, welcome.
Anybody else here? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to acknowledge Nadine's hand up.
Yeah, I'll echo what Gloria just said. I'm sorry I missed the first two in the second series, and I'm really looking forward to it, really.
Wonderful. Well, and that said, even if you join, if you're joining for the first time or if you've missed some, we do record these. So the recordings are always available. There are materials and worksheet packets available. There'll be a worksheet packet coming out for this particular module, if you will, on effective teams. And we always circle back. Leadership and organizing, coalition building is never a linear process, right? So we're constantly circling back to processes. And in January, we do plan to do a little bit of a recap. Where have we been? Which is good for all of us, whether you've been here dedicated each time or had to skip a few times, or whether you're new and may have missed quite a few learning labs. So it'll be a good time to really just kind of review. What have we covered so far? What insights have you all had? What questions you have? So that's something to look forward to in January.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Meredith.
Tina just added in chat, I want to learn how to better teach our employees and families the best way to keep our residents safe from illness.
That's great. Thank you, Tina. All right. So a little bit of an update here, and I thought I'd throw this in early on because we often end up running out of time. So I didn't want to run out of time for these updates. So again, today will be our final session for 2022, and our next learning lab will be January 11. So we'll be sending the worksheet packet on Teams sometime in the next week or so, hopefully sooner than later. And in that packet, there'll be a Teams diagnostic checklist, among other things, and we'll be reviewing that together today as well. And we'd love to have you review the packet, complete the diagnostic checklist if you can. And we'll talk about, when we get to that today, we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that either individually or, collectively with your team. And in January, we'll come back and discuss your findings. So think about what questions you might have after you complete your diagnostic checklist and sort of get as you're able to reflect on what's happening with your team or coalition. I have identified those areas that might need some improvement. We'll really be diving into more of those tools for how do we actually do these things. The last two sessions and today are largely about, we've been talking about the concepts. What does it actually take? What are those ingredients? Based on really studying teams for many, many years, what do the most effective teams really have that make them effective? So once we've finished sort of going through the content, so to speak, the concepts, then we'll be really digging into how do we make it happen? What tools can we use? What processes do we need to go through? How do we launch or relaunch a team? And I'm not a super sentimental person, but when I find myself in a position like this, where we're going to be diving into those sorts of tools in January at the beginning of the year, that's fantastic. It seems like such a perfect time to be launching or relaunching our teams. So great timing. I'd love to say we designed it that way, but we really didn't. And Roger, I see your hands up.
Hey everyone, how are you?
Hey, Roger.
I have to jump off at 12:30. I have a CPG meeting, community planning group. So I apologize for that, but good to see you all. How was your Thanksgiving? Everybody good?
Very good. Thank you for asking.
Great.
Absolutely. And thanks for letting us know. Glad to have you here. And we are recording this, so you can catch the recording and see if whatever you missed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let's see, what did I miss here? So yes, in January we'll be come with your results of your team diagnostic survey. We won't necessarily go around to every single person and ask you to share your results in detail, but look at your results and come prepared for questions, insights, anything that you really want to dig into that we can troubleshoot together, and even finding out where your common gaps are, for instance. We'll probably do some polling in the session so that we can get a sense for, in aggregate, for everybody who shows up in January, where you fall, where your challenge areas are, where you're doing really well. And then again, sharing those tools, agendas for launch and relaunch, and other things you can do concretely to really start addressing those areas that need improvement. We're also going to start talking about some options for more intensive training. You may have heard me say in the past, there's so many different ways to deliver this material. And oftentimes we do it in more intensive training formats. It might be 2 full days, for instance, or 4 half days. We've actually done it in semester-long courses before, a number of times, but we'll kind of talk about your interest for that and what format might lend itself best for people. So looking forward to that. And I also wanted to say, as we're wrapping up this year, thank you for all the work that each of you do. Each of you really truly carries a flame that helps light up the world. I loved this image as soon as I saw it. And this is how I kind of think of, excuse me, of all of us and all of our little flames that we carry that help really light up our worlds. Your passion, your spirit, your fire. Excuse me. Your leadership. And the other thing that really came to my mind is how we can spark the flame in others by our courage, our commitment, our choice to help lead change, and to ask others to join us, which is really a big part of what this whole framework is about, is understanding the power that we can build by first getting in touch with why our work is important to us, whatever our work is, or whatever those goals are. And how do we let that shine so that other people see our flame, essentially, and we ask them to join us. And oftentimes that's exactly what people are waiting for, is that opportunity to truly get involved in something meaningful, and really being able to see the heart of the work, not just the business case or getting others to buy in, but truly that we are, each of us is really helping to lead change and really doing it in a transformative way. So thank you all. Happy holidays to all of you. Rest, replenish, reflect, and of course, join us again in 2023. And this sounds like a closing slide, but like I said, I wanted to make sure we got it in early before we ran out of time. So thank you all very much. And now we'll dive in.
And Reese, I just wanted to call out, Nadine added in chat, please teach us how to be effective without sounding canned.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I only said canned because I could not find how to spell wrote.
Oh, yeah. So if you're okay with it, Nadine, why don't we kind of circle back on that in the new year? Because that really kind of brings us back again to, and I shouldn't say bring us back, but that shared story. So as you're seeing on the screen here, those leadership practices, that first one in that list, shared story, is such a vital part of this whole framework, and exactly what you're talking about, Nadine, when we can get in touch with not only our own story, but start to build that story of us, the story of our community, of our constituency. It's not canned at all. It's truly coming from the heart. This is why I'm passionate about improving health and healthcare. And it's not just about, I want to reduce readmissions and, build the business case and return on investment. And those things can very much sound rote and canned and don't necessarily spark the heart of the work. So yeah, let's definitely circle back on that for sure.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And for those of you who are new, or again, just a reminder, our definition of leadership here is on the left side of the screen. Leadership: accepting responsibility for enabling others to achieve shared purpose in the face of uncertainty. And again, that's really at the crux of it. Leadership in this framework is not about a title that you hold, or being appointed, or chairperson, or director, any of those things. If you are involved in change at all, of helping to improve things, you are a leader. So as I was talking about before, how do we not only kind of fan our own flames, so to speak, but also spark others to join us in the work, to begin to take their own leadership in making change. And again, that's really what this entire framework is all about, getting in touch with that. How do we do it well, effectively? Which is really the module that we're on right now, is really talking about that shared structure. Because it's one thing, we can absolutely get people fired up and passionate. Yes, I totally see the vision of the future that we can create if we work together. But that doesn't necessarily make it magically easy to work in teams, right? So what are those structures that we can put in place that will stack the deck, essentially? It doesn't mean that we're still going to go through the, forming storming, norming, and performing stages, but how do we stack the deck to be more effective as we go through that process, and really building that foundation and continuing to build those structures that will allow us to be effective, efficient, and grow over time. So we've been talking about teams, scream teams versus dream teams. How do we build the dream teams? Even if your team or coalition right now feels like a scream team, you can make progress towards making it a dream team. That's really, again, what all of these tools are about. So in the last 2 sessions, we've talked about what we call the essentials. Having a bounded, stable, interdependent team, having those resources, skills, and capabilities to really have the team that you need that leads interdependently. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to possess those, but in the whole, the team has the essential resources, skills, and capabilities, that there's a clear, compelling purpose, and the work is understood, challenging, and it matters. And everybody involved knows why it matters. We talked about those enabling structures. Oftentimes those are those things that we can kind of skip over a little bit, like creating team norms, for instance, really being intentional. The way I really like to think of this is setting up intentionally the kind of culture that we want to work in to perform at our best, both individually and as a team. And today we're going to wrap this up with that third bucket of ingredients, are those critical, important team processes, which doesn't sound like a very sexy title there, but it's so important. How do we actually set up our teams so that we have interdependent roles? We're actually doing real teamwork, have mutual accountability, and that the effort is actually building energy and commitment over time versus sucking our energy away, which sometimes we, even if we haven't taken an assessment before, we can just gauge by how we feel, whether we're kind of leaning towards dream team or scream team. And really what we've been talking about helps us really kind of pinpoint what is actually happening here, what might be undermining our confidence, or, robbing us of our energy, or, not allowing us to be productive, whatever the case might be. So let's talk about that first area here, interdependent roles. And, I've used this image for years. I just love it. And it just says so much, right? How do you create those roles, again, so that people are clear about their roles and responsibilities? And there's interdependence. Everybody is really important. So how do you do that ahead of time? And our first question for you, excuse me, I haven't even eaten anything today, and I have frogs in my throat. But I keep using this term interdependence. So I want to ask you all, what does interdependent mean to you?
Big Mama's.
You may come over there.
Hey, Angela.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. I just heard your voice. I wanted to know if you had a question. Okay. So first question for you all is, what does interdependent mean to you? And again, you can chat in or unmute.
Interdependent, does that mean working with others? No?
That's absolutely part of it. Yep, for sure.
Working with your own role and leadership roles? Interdependent, connecting roles.
Mm-hmm.
And then on each other, yeah.
Another term that's often used almost synonymously or complementary is distributed leadership as well. So if we think about, and it's not on this slide, but our logo for our leadership and organizing and action work here, and our framework is kind of a snowflake. So it's that, if we think about that image, we really want, it's not top down, right? So you don't have it's not hierarchical. It's truly shared leadership, distributed leadership. People are, interdependent. So in order for me to be effective, I need to not only do my job, right? My roles, my commitments, whatever it is I said I would do, but I'm also counting on you to have your own role, to actually, fulfill your own commitments, those sorts of things. So we're all depending on each other. We all have a different role to play, and we truly are dependent on one another to make the whole work. So yeah, go ahead. We have a lot of things in
we
chat.
had some, we had some good stuff coming in through chat. Molly says one relies on the other. Nadine, sum of all parts to make you better, cohesive. Morgan added dependent on one another, similar to Catherine. And then Lynn added reaching the goal or fulfilling the purpose requires participation of all.
Absolutely. All of those are spot on. Exactly right. And Nadine.
Yeah, I'm just speaking from experience. I'm drawing that from my healthcare work, but from my homeowners board work. And you go into a coalition of any kind, in my experience, thinking, well, I kind of already know my niche, my strengths, my niche. But until you get in with people that you have never worked with before, that could really shift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which again really speaks to that need to really intentionally set up the structures, the culture of every team that you're on, essentially. Oftentimes the pitfall that we fall into is, we're all adults, or we're all adult professionals, or, we should know how to do this, right? But it really does take that intentionality, because as you said, Nadine, we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different passions, those sorts of things. And each new team has its own culture, and it really needs to be built together. Yep, absolutely. Anything else that you're seeing, Meredith?
Not yet, no.
Wonderful. And thanks, everybody. And if anybody wants to come off of mute, you can do that as well.
I have to go.
All right. Thank you so much, Roger.
My guys, good seeing you again.
Happy holidays.
Same to you all. Thank you very much.
All
Hi,
right.
Raj. Nice to see you.
Same here. Bye-bye.
So the only other thing I would add on this, to really be able to achieve that interdependence, everyone needs to know exactly what their role is and their responsibilities, where their lanes are, right? Many of us have heard that term, to stay in your own lane, stay in our own lanes, but we need to know what that lane looks like. We need to be able to rely on each other, to trust one another. So there's a trust building component here. And it doesn't just mean that we have to, like fall back into each other's arms or those sorts of things, although those are fantastic techniques for trust building. But even setting up these structures is a trust building exercise in and of itself. I think last time I threw in one of my favorite quotes. Brene Brown says, "Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." And so much of this is about really getting clear on what our goals are, getting clear on our roles, our responsibilities, our commitments to one another. So we're not leaving things vague or unspecified. It really does create chaos when we do that. And being accountable to one another, not just a boss or, you know, some hierarchical structure. And oftentimes in our teams, especially coalitions, there is no hierarchy, right? So really creating that mutual accountability towards each other and the community that we serve. Yeah, Nadine.
But isn't there some beauty in, I'm not being a brat here, isn't there some beauty in having kind of a fluid set of roles? I mean, structured, of course, is so important. You get nowhere, but, you know, or to be in a group and they, the leaders, the quasi leader will say, oh, you're all equal. You all have the same voice and the same, but it never plays out that way. And those are two separate thoughts I had.
No, those are great questions. Absolutely. We certainly, when we talk about roles, we don't want to pigeonhole anyone, right? So that's also part of getting in touch with our story and bringing our resources to the table, our personal resources. So when a team is launching, to really understand what is everybody bringing to the table? What are people really passionate about? And your role may change depending on a particular strategy or goal. For instance, you know, we might have a 5-year goal, which is a really long-term goal, that mountaintop. But then we have interim goals along the way. So it might be, you know, maybe our goal for the next quarter is, you know, to achieve something. I don't know, let's say we want to increase vaccinations for our community, right? And we're really making a big push. We all know flu season is really hitting us hard this year. So what can we do to work together to, you know, get flu vaccinations up? And you may have a particular role to play in that particular effort. It doesn't mean that you're stuck in that forever, but really understanding, and you may have more than one role, certainly. You may decide that depending on what the various roles are, maybe you want to rotate. That's all, again, about really creating that culture within the team. And kind of touching on the second thing that you said, about, you know, everyone's equal, everyone has a say, but it doesn't always play out that way. That can really be helped by when you're really setting up those enabling structures, for instance, those norms or agreements for how we're going to work together, to include those decision-making norms, being really transparent about that and agreeing on that as a team. Is it top down? Is it majority rules? Is it by consensus? Is it by ranking? All of those sorts of things. So part of it is educating ourselves on what are all the different ways that we can make decisions as a team. And then again, being really transparent and intentional about choosing how our team wants to do that. And that's the kind of stuff that we're really going to dive into in the new year, as well as getting into these sorts of details, so that it really does work out that way. So you don't have to come back and say, well, we know it doesn't always work out that way. Oftentimes to me, that means, I wonder how they launched the team. That's usually the question I ask is, what kind of agreements do you have? How do you make decisions? What are your processes? How do you discuss things? All of those kinds of things is what really comes to my mind.
And Risa, that brings to mind a specific tool. So in these labs, we're sometimes hanging on theory, sometimes we're talking about tools, sometimes we're modeling, coaching, but in regards to that point around team norms, decision-making, team charters is a tool that we use and coach on often that fits well into this conversation. So, uh-oh, Risa, I caught it. I caught your frog. But if you ever want one-on-one help with developing a team charter, and you have a sense of urgency before we get to that kind of tool in the learning lab, we're always happy to help in that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So real teamwork. This is another one of the those conditions under this particular area, you know, and under team processes. And what do we really mean by real teamwork? What does that mean exactly? And again, through Dr. Wagaman's studies, when she saw teams that were really effective, the way she defined what she saw as real teamwork, again, after everything what we talked about just a few minutes ago, intentionally creating those structures and processes for how the team's going to make decisions, communicate, those sorts of things, it allows a team to actually solve problems together. You have the information that you need, the structures are in place to have a transparent conversation when a problem comes up. You're not, looking towards Superman to save you, that kind of thing, or again, some hierarchical structure, but the team is actually equipped and has the capabilities to solve those problems as a team. It doesn't get in their way or stop them in their tracks, and that's it. But they can actually figure out, how do we do this together? They can make decisions together. So they're not, again, having to wait for someone else to make the decision for them, but we can actually do this ourselves. And again, all of that takes trust and processes that are kind of the scaffolding. That's a lot of what I think of so many of these things, is putting that foundation and then the scaffolding together to really help the team grow together. Again, it doesn't just magically happen. People share information freely with one another for the good of the whole. So nobody's sort of hoarding their little piece of the work or their, fantastic tool or information or technique, but they're sharing it so that they can solve those problems and make decisions. And did I hear you, Meredith?
Yeah, I love what Nadine added in chat. When asked the question, what's in place for the team to work together effectively? Peripheral vision. Love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So again, real teamwork, that scaffolding, there's a structure and opportunities for enabling others to join in as well. Kind of back to what you were saying, Nadine, about that freedom and fluidity. Sometimes your teams especially might be really bounded for a long period of time. Other times we have people joining us, might be new team members, maybe we're hiring people, maybe your team is growing. If we think of coalitions, there's often a lot of fluidity. People are constantly joining. So how do you avoid the constant chaos and trying to catch people up and explain? So there's, you've created structures to sort of onboard people effectively, and not just onboarding them and getting them to, fit into this already, well-polished structure, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the key to this, when people are joining, is especially a coalition that's really largely volunteer, right? I mean, yeah, your company may say, hey, I want you to be part of this coalition, but you're still essentially each representative, each member is still essentially volunteering to be part of the coalition. And people want to be able to contribute. So being able to join in, and the team as a whole is integrating in what each new person has to bring. their skills, their resources, their passion, their thoughts, versus, okay, new person, here's what we've already established. Do you agree or not? So it's not a close-ended, but it's open. What else would you add to this, so that people are truly building the vision together? And it can absolutely be done without things just breaking down into absolute chaos. So more to come on that in January. And then lastly, the other really key piece here when we're talking about real teamwork is team members are really consulting one another and coaching each other through those challenges. So as I've said before, coaching is really sort of that sixth practice that's not really explicitly shown on that framework diagram. But really building up our ability to coach one another is very, very important, and increasingly so in the research. Coaching is really emerging as such a key skill, not only for appointed leaders, but for each of us as team members, coalition mates, those sorts of things. And I just saw, let's see here. Looking at your chat, Nadine, how do you enable participants who are timid? I see it happen all the time. Absolutely. Yes. So sometimes, and there's a variety of ways to do that, and we'll dive more into this as well in January, but you're absolutely right. We're always going to see that those who are, more talkative, more loud, whatever the case might be, and those who just sort of almost shrink back. And there's many different ways to sort of tackle that. One being not only whoever might be facilitating a discussion, whether it's a quote unquote team lead or team leader, or just somebody who's facilitating a particular conversation, to be aware of that. So again, an opportunity to grow our own skills in that way, but also for the team, the rest of the people there. And that's where those norms or agreements can come in, where we explicitly call out some people tend to hold back and others. So we often talk about step up and step back. So those of us who might be timid or more quiet, it's an opportunity and creating that agreement that, yes, I will exercise my stepping up muscle, so to speak. I will share because my feedback is important. And if I'm always quiet, that's going to affect the whole endeavor ultimately. And there's other aspects to that as well. If later on you feel like, well, nobody ever listens to me, well, are you actually sharing? Are you being transparent about what you think and what you feel? So that's important as well. And then step back, those of us who are constantly raising our hands first, or the first person to say something, to exercise our step back muscle and make room for others. And there's other ways to do that as well, intentionally, as we build trust. And yes, and do we coach outside of meetings? Absolutely. And we can have more conversations. We'll have a whole session on coaching, actually. And of course, as a coach myself, trained certified coach in a few different areas, I love it. So you'll definitely see my spark get very bright when we talk about coaching. But there's so many different ways to coach, and you can do it more formally, as well as just integrating it into our work practices, for sure. So accountability. Again, really establishing those structures for accountability. This is another pitfall that we can fall into when we don't have these structures in place, is tasks don't get done, or maybe we don't even follow up on action items or track action items. So having the structures in place so that we're capturing the action items, we're tracking them, we're following up on them, and we have established that mutual accountability towards one another. This is not a gotcha kind of thing, but truly, if we're passionate about the goal, we're all joining together to make something happen. One of our agreements is I will follow through. You know, our team follows through on our commitments. And when we can't, we let people know, hey, I'm going to be late on this or whatever. So it's creating, when we really want that accountability, I often think of our agreements as creating that safe space to truly be productive, commit to one another, and constantly be looking at, are these structures working for us versus, all right, who's not doing their job? Or, gosh, I don't want to embarrass anybody or call anybody out, so let's just avoid it altogether, because that's not going to work. And I have a tool that I absolutely love that we'll talk about. Maybe we won't get to all of these in January, but in the new year, for really looking at those norms or agreements and constantly updating them so that they're not just static, but they're dynamic. And you're really looking at, are these agreements still working for us as a group? And you're discussing it, sort of removing emotions. It's not about, you know, anybody having to say, yeah, I know I've been really bad, I haven't gotten my stuff done, but, you know, or yeah, we're always late. And it doesn't do any good to say, well, just don't be late anymore, but re-examine, okay, is our start time still working for us? What do we want to do about it? So anyway, it's a really fun, respectful tool to really examine that. And again, helping to build a safe place for people to really get work done and be accountable to one another. Again, I'm very passionate about this piece and how we can have better teams, better teamwork. It's so important. And then this last one, effort, building, commitment. And this one I really see, you know, when you're really looking at effective teams and studying this, this is, I think, a piece that's not often talked about, but a lot of the work that we do has a lot of really intense periods of effort, right? It's hard work. If it's too easy, well, that's probably not quite the right way to say that, but we want to be able to take care of each other, right? Take care of ourselves and not exhaust ourselves. So putting in realistic timelines and expectations for one another, while at the same time, much of our work is very urgent, right? Real lives are at stake, the quality of life, life or death, the health of our families, loved ones, our community is at stake. So how do we find that balance that we're not exhausting ourselves, but we're also challenging ourselves and getting real work done in a timely manner? What pushes us forward, especially when, as our definition of leadership says, in times of uncertainty? Much of our work, none of it, I would venture to guess, is a sure thing, right? So there are challenges. We experience barriers. It's not always easy to get the thing done, whatever that thing is. So how do we build in processes and support systems that build our energy while we're climbing the mountain versus just exhausting us? So question for you all, what keeps you going when you're in a position like this, when you're feeling like, oh my gosh, it's just barrier after barrier or challenge after challenge, or it's too fast, or whatever the case might be? What keeps you going? The intended goal, yeah. Oh yeah, I love that, Angela, absolutely. So that effort building commitment over time. So yeah, being able to see the goal is within reach. Being really passionate. Even understanding right from the get-go, this is not going to be easy, but joining together, we're building our power and capacity together, creating those support structures, being able to coach one another. And when we start to see results, as Angela said, when I reach someone, when I see the difference it makes in somebody's life, absolutely, which really exactly, Meredith, you and I are right on the same path here. It really points out how important it is to celebrate those successes as well, even if it's just really small, you know, to reflect, which is sort of the first thing, is being able to really reflect and have that as part of the team process, build in times of reflection. We had this particular goal. These were the strategies we used to get there. How did we do? Did we meet the goal? Did we, come halfway? Did we not even, we didn't even get on the playing field or whatever it is? And just to be able to reflect together again. Again, doing that in that safe space to reflect on those things so that we always have our eye on the prize. And being able to adjust. Maybe we need to adjust the strategy. Maybe we need coaching, maybe, whatever it is, the team really being able to identify that energy bar, so to speak, that'll help to get you up the next peak. So that's really sort of those are the concepts around team effectiveness and the conditions. And the worksheet packet, you can dive in and really read more about this. And again, come back in January with your questions. And then some homework for you, other than reading, is this team diagnostic checklist. And in the worksheet packet, this checklist will be in your worksheet packet, and you can use this in, hard copy paper form. And we're also building it in SurveyMonkey so that you can do this in SurveyMonkey and see your results mapped out. And then we can see them as well. Not that we're going to do anything for them, but that'll also make it easier when we look at those commonalities where people are seeing common challenges where we might want to focus some of our efforts. So I know this is kind of small, but I wanted to get it all on one page here. But it goes through each of these areas, essentially. The labels are a little bit different. I might update those a little bit to align them with the essentials and the three buckets that we've been talking about. But essentially, this is these categories, these individual questions or categories are really getting at some of the specifics here. So under compelling purpose, for instance, is there a truly shared purpose that is clear to all members? Hugely important. The work has consequences. Is it clear what those consequences are, why it matters to actually do this work, and you're not just engaging in busy work? The work is challenging and engaging. It requires commitment from people. Again, if it were super easy, it wouldn't be that big of an effort. And sometimes it's great to have easy goals, but sometimes that doesn't light people's passion. So how do you really make the work challenging and engaging for people? Under capabilities, resources, skills, members understand themselves as an important part of the team, not just representing their own interests or their own organization, for instance, in a coalition. oftentimes at the beginning, when coalitions are new, somebody might be representing their company. And in order to have that real teamwork, yes, you're still, you're still coming from an organization or a neighborhood or whatever, depending on the makeup of your coalition, but being able to be part of the whole and have those shared goals, that shared commitment to one another. You're not just a representative, but you're a part of that team or coalition. The team collectively has a high level of collaborative skills. Again, this is getting at, does the team as a whole have those skills and capabilities? Not necessarily every single individual. Do members have the ability to think about the overall system, not just their place within the system? Again, not everybody, but somebody needs to have that balcony view, the bigger vision. The team is comprised of people who have a diverse set of skills, resources, and perspectives. This kind of takes us all the way back to mapping actors, which I think is one of the first practices that we started from. When we map actors, we often start with sort of the usual suspects or those strong ties that we have. What about the weaker ties? Who else is in the community and impacted by the current situation that may not be, at the table, may not be represented? We may not be hearing from them. So really intentionally committing to diversity of opinion, perspectives, those sorts of things. There's many reasons for that, including just avoiding groupthink as well. Team leaders and members have skills to encourage and coach each other. The team has clear and stable boundary. It's clear who's on the team. It's not just a random group of people showing up every time. So if your coalition looks more like a networking group, for instance, it doesn't necessarily immediately mean that it's not effective, but that's something to think about. Is this networking group, if it's constantly changing, a new person each time, everybody's passing out business cards, are you accomplishing things together? Is that what you want to do with that group? Or is that a place that you might need some improvement in? And then those enabling structures, as you can see, there's many under this category. Team members explicitly understand how decisions will be made. Decision-making processes are transparent. The team has clear expectations and those norms or agreements. The team has talked about how violations of the norms, I don't always love this language, but again, if you're not following the agreements that you made to one another, how do you approach that? So again, I have a fantastic tool to share with you all, and I'd love to hear from all of you in the new year as well. If you have a system for revisiting norms or agreements, please share. Team members have clear roles, not just job descriptions, but clearly understand roles for how they contribute to the success of the team. Individuals know their own role, where their role interacts with others, and that members support one another while staying in their own lane. The team communicates effectively. Team members are able to recognize and resolve conflict. Very important as you're building trust. And then lastly, the organization structures, and the organization can again be the coalition, the team, whatever level is most applicable to the team that you're assessing with this checklist. So the organization structures and systems enable and facilitate rather than undermine the teamwork. Very important. So I will stop here, and I know we have just a few minutes left, but any big questions that came up for you in this checklist? All right. Well, please let us know. Meredith and I will be out the latter half of December, but don't be shy about reaching out to us with questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And just not to get too far ahead of myself, we'd love if you have 3 key takeaways for this particular session or anything that you've learned so far in these learning labs. We'd love to have you share those, chat them in. And while you're thinking about that, boy, I think we're going to do it, Meredith. This is our first one. Of course, I've probably just jinxed myself and taken up our time here. So what's next? Again, we will be meeting again in January on the 11th. And tools, launching and relaunching teams, among others. But one of the things I've learned in almost a year of doing these learning labs is that I think, well, I was going to say Meredith and I, but it's usually mostly me. Meredith, I think, is a little more realistic about how much we can accomplish during these learning labs. So we will definitely be talking about launching and relaunching and other tools if we have time in that next session, but we will be getting to all of them. Please invite others on your teams to join if you think this would be helpful. And it is helpful to go through this learning as a team to be able to speak the same language, which again brings me to this idea of doing a more intensive training. Please let us know if you're interested. You can chat in that you're interested, that you'd like to learn more, or you can email us as well. And Meredith, I see a few things have come in by chat.
Yeah, Lisa thanked us and wished everyone happy holidays. Good information shared. Nadine responded about the checklist, very comprehensive.
Yes. And by the way, if you have any feedback on the checklist, if there are things that you felt were missing from that or that you had questions about, please let us know. We do tweak it from time to time. It is, again, based on Ruth Wagaman's work, so we don't want to just completely change something that has been researched and vetted, but we also want to make it work for people. So please let us know if we can improve that tool. And any other comments or questions from anybody? I just want to celebrate. I think this is our first one where we've made it all the way to the thank you slide without running out of time. Woo!
I'll vouch for that.
Yes. Thank you all. Those of you who've been with us throughout, those of you who are new, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all that you do, for your leadership and courage and all the hard work and challenging work that you do to make your communities better, make lives better. Very much appreciated. Love learning from all of you as well. Happy holidays. And we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks to both of you.